All right, here we go. Thursday night, we're back. Dave Koken is here. It's Cofield. Interesting night of sports in and out of town. Dave, what's going on, buddy?
Well, I got lucky in a football game. I had Pittsburgh in the college football game -6, and they won by 7 in overtime. So take those when they come, and
Yeah.
just remember that when you lose a bad one.
That you got one every once in a while.
Yep. Funny thing is, same city. At the Penguins, I think it was Friday or Saturday in the NHL, and they're up 4-2 with about 3 minutes to play. Blew the lead, tying goal with 2 seconds. Missed 2 breakaways in overtime, and then had the lead twice in the shootout, and I lost. So the city of Pittsburgh owed me one, and they gave it to me tonight.
How was the game? How was the football game?
I mean, it was okay, I guess. It was better than the Colts-Dolphins game, Ravens-Dolphins, which was just all. These Thursday night NFL games really suck. The teams aren't ready to play.
I know. There's no other way to explain. I mean, you can. I can chalk up. Hey, looking ahead, not ready for a lesser opponent, but these Thursday night games
are bad.
Yeah, from an integrity standpoint, the Thursday night games many times have just sucked.
Yep. Best game of the night, probably the Golden Knights game. Got really exciting at the end. That's why we're on a little later tonight, because we wanted to watch the game. And 3-0 lead. Got to be 3-2. Minnesota gets a power play late, but very nice kill in the last minute and change by the Golden Knights, and they get a 3-2 victory. They're playing pretty well, considering all the absences.
Yeah, I was going to say, starting to get a good feeling about the Knights, that holding it together like this and actually excelling a little bit, that when everyone comes back, this actually is going to be a good team.
You would think so. And, of course, the main thing is just get to the playoffs, and then Eichel's going to be back, and it could be a real dangerous team.
Yep. And if I'm correct, we had talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Didn't you play the under for the season? Was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we'll see. I mean, I'm well ahead of pace.
Of course. Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah. Brady was asking, why don't they have Thursday games set up for teams coming off buys?
I don't know.
At least they're ready.
Would seem to make sense.
Because they don't care. Because the league doesn't care about integrity. It says it does, but it just doesn't. So it's clear what happens on Thursday nights too often, that the quality of play sucks, and many times the road team is at a massive disadvantage.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
And Baltimore they were not ready tonight. Obviously, they're the better team, and they did not play well at all.
Yeah. It's funny. Adam Candy sent over a topic today, and I guess he wanted to talk about it because the Ravens were playing. That makes sense. That's the way you do radio, right? But he said he thought by a good distance the Ravens are the best team in the AFC, and then I did my rankings, and going into tonight, I didn't think they were the best team in the AFC, but man, what a freaking wake up call. Or do you just look at it like, hey, it's a blip? Because I put the Bills number one, and a lot of that I base on. I think the Bills are going to roll to the number one seed because their schedule is easy. I know they lost to Jacksonville, but they're going to have such a big advantage the rest of the year because of their schedule. Everything's going to have to go through Buffalo.
That loss might actually help them. Yeah. Send a message to the team that you can't just show up and expect to win. It's the National Football League. Yeah. Even the worst team can beat the best team. It's not like college football where, if UNLV plays Georgia 100 times, they're going to lose 100 times. Not like that in the NFL. I shouldn't say that about UNLV anymore because now they've got to win.
Everything's changed.
Yep.
I'm pretty confident they would have a tough time against Georgia.
I think so.
100 out of 100.
Yeah. But they are off a win for the first time in the Marcus Arroyo regime, and we'll see what they bring to the table on Saturday against Hawaii. Chance to win another game, certainly. I think Hawaii is maybe a little better team, but the Rebels should have a different level of confidence this week because they actually didn't just get a moral victory; they got an actual win.
Yeah. Are you going to bet it?
No, I don't know what. I have nothing to base anything on in terms of how they perform off a win. So I want to see. I mean, who knows? Maybe they lose some intensity here. It's not like there's a lot to play for. They're not going to a bowl. It's from that standpoint, it's a bigger game for Hawaii. So
right.
I don't know. But I think they're going to be more confident. I'm not going to bet against them. I know that.
Yeah, when we were talking about the game a little bit on the air today, Candy, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this, about the fact that the Owl could be filled with a lot more Hawaii fans. I actually don't think that's a bad thing for UNLV because they've played a lot of games. The games at Allegiant have actually, the crowd noise has actually been pretty good, but UNLV's also played several games where there was no crowd. Like Albuquerque, no one was there at all. So even if it were 50-50 or 60-40 for Hawaii, I don't think it's going to bother them.
I think the Rebels will get more of a turnout this weekend. They're off a win. They'll sell a few extra tickets because of that.
Yeah. Brady says, or questions, percentage that Arroyo keeps the job. I'm hoping it's high, and I'm not even a diehard Arroyo guy. Are there?
It's 100%.
Are there diehard Arroyo guys? I like Marcus, and I think there are some others, but diehard's a little bit strong. Dave, you were saying he's not going anywhere.
It's only his second year.
Yep. You're like incredulous. I don't think you read social media. It's like
I don't. No, I read social media. I just don't pay any attention to it.
It's just
sorry. I know this is rude, but most fans are kind of stupid. They just are. They just say ridiculous things. I figured that out when I was a teenager, and I'd be listening to sports talk radio, which was in its infancy then, and of course it was mostly Red Sox where I was. And the trades that these fans would propose, it's like they're out of their mind. Why would the other team possibly do that? So
that's all it used to be in Philly, New York, and Boston in the early days. The trade calls were ridiculous.
They're comical.
Yeah. And I remember one of the guys who kind of was, a straight shooter, didn't really play around, was Howie Rose. And,
I remember him.
Howie Rose just was like, would just say, like, you're being ridiculous. Why would the other team ever take, some Mets farm hands and some guys you don't want for two of their stars? Like, stop.
But MLB Network was actually doing segments last year. I think they stopped it this year, where fans could tweet or text or whatever some kind of a trade, and the GM John Hart would evaluate the deal, and he wanted to just say, "Are you fucking stupid?" But he couldn't do it because they were on the air. Yeah. But it was just horrible, and it's like I turned it off because it's like, this is ridiculous. I want to let the experts talk baseball so I can maybe get some good information. I think they got rid of it. Maybe because John Hart probably said, "I can't do this anymore.
I can't do this. It's too dumb. I'm having a lie on national TV."
Yeah, because he couldn't call the fan an idiot.
Right.
He had to be diplomatic about it, and he said, "Well, I don't think that'll happen." But yeah. Okay.
And I've had. It's funny. I'll say this. I guess I don't care because that's why I opened it up. But my DMs are open, so every once in a while. First of all, I do get requests for like advice on picks all the time on UNLV, and I'm like, I don't know. But the other thing is, when they were hitting the 6 and 7 and 8 mark on the losing streak to open the season, I would get it every week. Like, hey, what's the chance Arroyo's gone? And I'm like, he's not getting fired. Now, listen, if they hit the 5-game mark, and then game 6, 7, 8, 9, and then the rest of the season they were losing by like 35, 42. I mean, and like guys are quitting. It's a disaster. Yeah. The guys are going freaking off the range. There's discipline problems, but like none of that's happening. I know people just look at the win-loss record, but as Brady said it, like you feel like the team is bought in and seems to be playing hard. They are, and guys are getting better. The guys who've been around, they've had some young guys or even older guys who were never expected to play, and now they're playing, and you can see they're getting a little bit better. So I'm not saying I know what kind of job Oreo's doing. Just on the surface, could they have won some more games? Yes. Would it have been nice to start Brumfield? That was a mistake in game 1 against Eastern Washington. They could have won that game, so I think they cost themselves a win there. But like they were probably. I mean, I didn't think they were going to be anything better than max like a 4 or 5 win team. They're not going to get there, I don't think.
I didn't think they'd win 2.
Yeah. So, I thought they could get to 3 or 4 based on the talent. But they've They lost a couple of close games where they didn't execute, and they've had a lot of bad injury luck. I mean, a lot of bad injury luck. And for now, yeah, just so you know, I don't know if you heard this, but Brumfield's out for the year.
Yeah, I know.
And they really didn't say why, and I don't know exactly why, but from what I heard, he's been struggling with this back injury, which I was in doubt about 2 weeks ago that he was coming back at all this year, because when you watch him run around at practice, he's not running like he's supposed to run. He looks like he's kind of hobbled like an old guy, like he's not grabbing at his back, but he looks like he's brittle. And then from what I heard, he actually suffered an ankle injury that's going to end the season. But I think he suffered that, believe it or not, it may have happened in the weight room.
And by the way,
Dave, that speaks to their luck this year. If their potential starting quarterback trying to return hurts his ankle in the weight room, you're like, okay, it just wasn't meant to be with the kid this year.
Silver lining, he didn't play in 4 games. They can redshirt him. That kid's going to be a good player. He's, I think, clearly the most skilled of the quarterbacks on the UNLV roster. I think he's got a chance to be good as he gains experience. So that's something to look forward to. And, I don't think he's an NFL prospect at this point, so he can take his red shirt and they'll get it for an extra year. That's all right.
He can be a good college quarterback.
Yes.
Good running ability. He's got a freaking cannon. Honestly, I don't even know how to read how good he is throwing the ball yet, because we haven't really seen him in that much action. But I do believe that going to next year, if both of those guys are around, that they go into next year with 2 nice options, potentially to be the starting quarterback, and they've got a little quarterback battle going to the spring. So
nothing wrong with that.
A lot was accomplished this year in spite of getting just 1 win. That's one of the things. I think they've got some good pieces here at quarterback.
They've only had 2 really bad games. Iowa State, they were just completely overmatched, and the Reno game. Outside of that, they've been a very competitive team, including, and I know maybe San Antonio took them lightly, but that's still an unbeaten team that's getting a lot of attention, and they played them on the road, and they gave them a real good battle. I mean, that was a ball game in the 4th quarter. So even with the 1 win, even if they end up with just 1 win, some positive steps.
I guess I'll go with the San Antonio took them lightly. Up until last week, New Mexico is the worst team they've played. I thought San Antonio was probably the 2nd worst team they played before New Mexico. I don't think that quarterback's great, Frank Harris.
He's pretty smart. He's not.
And their run game against the Rebels, and the Rebels have actually been pretty good in a lot of run spots. Against the Rebels, their run game, and that kid's a good running back. Sincere McCormick's really good. Yep. And they weren't really moving the Rebels. So from a stout standpoint, the Rebels actually did pretty well in that game.
No, I do hope UTSA stays unbeaten, because that might be a team to fade in a bowl game. I mean, they're a nice team, and their coach has done a great job, but Conference USA is really bad. The best thing that can happen to the Conference USA is the expansion that they're going to have, or the departure of all these teams to the American Athletic Conference, and nobody will consider CUSA for anything more than it is, which is a bottom rung. It's the worst conference in college football. It's Sunbelt's better. Well, the MAC and Conference USA are close.
I think there will be 8,000 to 10,000 Hawaii fans on Saturday.
Probably.
I mean, I guess there could. I don't know what the travel restrictions are. Who knows right now? Do they get to go back very easily, or do they have to? Is it a pain in the ass when they go back?
I don't know that. But I know I have friends who've traveled to Hawaii recently, and
okay,
they had no problems. They had a great time while they were there, and said it wasn't quite as crowded as usual. So they had an even better time.
Yeah, my guess is just from local Hawaiians who live here now that's a few thousand right there who'll come in, and I'm sure some Hawaii fans will travel. It makes for a good weekend if they can get here.
Why not? Everybody wants to come to Las Vegas, including, by the way, we got to mention this. I don't know what the logistics are going to be, but I guess the NHL is going to have an outdoor skills competition during the All-Star festivities when they come here, and it's going to be on the Strip. I don't know how they're going to work it. Yeah.
That's
They're
cool.
going to have both indoor and outdoor skills competitions. So I don't know any of the details. I just saw that tonight, and it's like, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, let's hope it's a little bit chilly. A little bit. Give us some days in the 50s around that time. Why not, right? Oh, the cat's getting all vocal.
I hear you, but I can't see you.
Calm down, brother. Calm down.
Where are you, buddy? He's somewhere around here.
I didn't see this with UTSA. They were chanting, "We want Bama, we want Georgia."
Oh, yeah, okay.
Why not?
Why not? If you'll live in the dream, you may as well go all the way, right?
All right, so we're getting a bunch of NFL questions, just some random questions, and then we'll go through some college games and get to the NFL.
All right.
Jeff was asking, quiet down there. I mean, we may as well address the elephant in the room. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen with Raiders Chiefs?
I don't know. I honestly don't know because I don't know what the state of the Raiders is at this point. Does anybody? It's been a rough month. I mean, the Gruden thing, they rebounded from that well, and then Ruggs and Arnett, and a lot of bad press. And you can say that, the players don't pay any attention to that. They kind of do, okay? Because it's everywhere. Right now is not the best time for the Raiders in this city. So I don't know what impact it's going to have on them. Kansas City still isn't playing good football, but they're the Chiefs, and you still get the feeling they could rev it up. But I don't want Kansas City at this point. I mean, they're just not playing well enough to be deserving of being a road favorite. But I can't trust the Raiders at this point, and I just hope it doesn't fall apart on them.
What do you think about Desean Jackson?
They needed to get a receiver.
Yeah.
And they didn't want Beckham, who it's like, do we need it? No. So they went with Jackson. I don't know. I think at this point in his career, he's an option. That's about it. He's not going to be one of your main guys. I can't see that. He's lost a step. He's still, he's still a quality player, but he's not the Desean Jackson that he used to be. Look, the Raiders will be fine if they can put all the distractions behind them. That's not easy. I mean, you saw it, and I know it was Jordan Love on the field,
yeah.
But the Packers were not focused last week. They just weren't. Okay, I've seen enough games, and they just weren't focused last week. You don't know what impact it's going to have on a team until you see them play. They're games that, as a bettor, I just stay away from games like that. It's like, I don't know what the impact's going to be. I don't know what the impact's going to be on the Vikings this week. They've had a bad week. The running backs, who knows? It's a he said, she said. I don't know. But they've also got some COVID issues. So it looks like they're going to be a little shorthanded as they come to the West Coast to play the Chargers. And they've been in every single game this year. But can you trust them with the distractions suddenly weighed in? So that's been my philosophy over the years is I don't know what the hell is going to happen. Well, there's an option. Don't bet the game.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to play it. There's other games. Or you can play no games. How about that? You can just skip a week.
I'm going to probably play 2 games this week.
Yeah.
And one of them everybody's going to hate. I'm going to take the Lions against the Steelers. It's a good spot. Detroit's off a terrible game. Really their worst game of the year. They had a bye. Pittsburgh's coming off a real battle with the Bears. And they've got bigger fish to fry on deck. That's a big number. I think the Lions will compete in that game. So I will be on Detroit. And everybody will hate the pick. And if it gets beat by 3 touchdowns, they'll call me an idiot. But, a lot of people didn't like my picks last week. And Denver and Atlanta did me pretty good because I had them both straight up in on the money line. So
yeah,
it was a good Sunday.
That's a good one. I didn't have the balls to do it with Denver. I took Denver and Minnesota in teasers up to 16 and 13. So those were pretty easy.
I haven't been playing teasers, which I guess is probably a mistake on my part, but
I don't know. I mean,
there's a lot of people having good years with them. I'll tell you one thing: a lot of
Ravens tonight. We're going to be a very popular leg.
Yes.
That blew up every teaser. Right? You even have a shot. No shot.
Yeah. It's going to be. I think, regardless of what happens on Saturday and Sunday, might be a good week for the books based on tonight because that blew up every teaser card out there. They were all over the place. It also did a number, I would imagine, on the Survivor contest at the Circa, because I would guess that Baltimore got a lot of attention from those who were surviving.
Why'd you go Denver money line? Do you play money lines often?
If it's a dog,
yeah.
Well, if I think they're good enough to cover the spread, then why not give them a shot to win the game? And I did think Dallas was in a real fat and happy spot last week, coming off a real good win with Cooper Rush. Now we got Prescott back in the field. Denver's not playing very well. Easy win. And they were never in the game. NFL teams have dead spots. And I do think Pittsburgh's in a potential dead spot this week, and they ain't that good anyway. So I'll take the 9 there, and I will play a little money line on the Lions.
What's like your original bet on the side versus the money line? What percentage do you play on the money line?
If 3 or 4 times on the spread to 1 on the money line.
Okay,
it's just an add-on, but it's a nice add-on when it hits.
Of course, yeah.
And I won't bother with it if it's a real low money line. If it's like plus 115 or something like that, it's like,
right.
Why bother?
Did you have were these college basketball? Or was that football?
Yesterday, that was college basketball yesterday. Yeah, I'm off to a good start in college basketball.
Why'd you play those sides?
Well, I like New Mexico, and I was a bit disappointed, quite frankly, in the attendance. But this was their first home game in forever because they didn't play a home game last year,
right?
And they were wrecked by COVID. And I thought, boy, this is a good spot. They're going to really be excited. Well, maybe the fan base wasn't, but the players were, and that's all that mattered. And Wyoming, I liked the hire they made with the guy from Northern Colorado who replaced Edwards, who I didn't think was very good.
Right. And
I thought Wyoming made progress last year, and I think they're going to make more progress this year. I think Wyoming could be sneaky good in the Mountain West this season.
It's a rough place to play, I'll tell you that, because they don't get attendance. So you walk in and it's kind of like TCU used to be, before TCU joined the Big 12, and there's like 2,000 fans there. It's a freaking dead atmosphere. With it's funny with New Mexico, Jeff Grammer, and I'm sure you follow him on Twitter.
Yes. That's how I found out about the attendance, which was 8,000.
That was unbelievable. How small the crowd was. So, but they did. You know what? Richard Pitino in this league, I don't think he's a great coach, but he will recruit. So they're going to be dangerous. And their backcourt right away is Mashburn's kid, who I thought was good in the Big Ten. And then Jalen House comes over from Arizona State. And then they combine for like 43 points in game, or something, maybe even more than that, like 45 points in game number 1.
House is going to be a stud in the Mountain West. What was the attendance for UNLV? I did not check it.
Small. It was reported at 4,900. I would say there was probably 3,000. And I talked about it on the air today. And I'm all for everyone out there getting vaccinated, but I'm not all for shutting out potential buyers. And the fully vaccinated thing, I think, is going to take away a good number of fans from UNLV. And it's already kind of in an uphill climb the last couple of years with attendance.
Well, I would agree. For 2 reasons. Number one, some people just don't like it. And secondly, we're progressing pretty well right now. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen in November, December, January. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you. So if the numbers go back up, who knows? But I think most people, and I'll put myself in this group, think it's, this isn't bad right now. It's not great, but it's a lot better than it's been. And maybe it's time to take the masks off. Okay.
I mean, obviously, if they didn't go with the fully vax, then people were going to have to wear masks. But then I also feel terrible for the ushers and the staffers who have to police that. I don't know.
Impossible.
You know what, Dave? I would say half the time, last night's game, half the time, and especially when I wasn't speaking, when I wasn't speaking, and I don't pop on the mic that much, but I had my mask on for much of the game, so I don't have a problem wearing it.
I don't have a problem with it either. But
honestly, I don't believe that. The fully vax thing cracks me up because I also don't believe they have a real way of policing it, and I think people are getting in without being fully vaxxed. So it's just like I'm just going to wear the mask. I'm going to wear the mask. It never really bothered me. I don't love wearing it, but it doesn't drive me nuts, so I'll just wear it.
And as for the vax, I reached the point a while ago. It's like, if you want to get it, and I do, I'll be getting my booster in a few weeks. For me, it's an obvious choice. I'm 68, and senior males are the most vulnerable, even in good health. So it's a no-brainer for me. I can't speak for anybody else, and I'm not. I have to tell you, and I know, you're a liberal. I'm not liberal on everything, okay? Since this is political, I'm not big on mandates.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I'm more to the right of center as far as that goes. I mean, I don't think anyone should be forced to do something they don't want to do.
Right. If
they want to be, now there are certain restrictions. If you can't go to a certain place, well, that's the way it goes. Or if the company you work for decides to put the mandate in, it's their business.
Yep.
So they can do what they want. If you don't like it, that's tough shit. But by and large, I probably am on slightly on the right of center on that issue, since it is a political football.
We at Lotus, they finally put in you have to be fully vaccinated. So got to be fully vaccinated by January 4th, or you have to test every week.
Every week's not bad. A lot of places every day.
Yeah, or you get the steak knives, or you're fired. So fuck off and you're out. So there's termination.
Well,
believe me, at Lotus, no one's getting fired. So
no, and the thing is,
they're trying to make it as safe as possible. And at a radio station, it's a little bit different than your average working place.
Exactly.
Because we commingle a lot. I don't mean that way. That was the 90s at Lotus. I mean, around the building, there's a lot of cross-contamination. And Dave, you can attest to this fact. I know you're a guy. Dave's like freaking Iron Man. But at radio stations, when something starts going around,
shit,
people have colds. Holy shit! It takes down the whole building.
I'd get pissed off if somebody was working with the flu. It's like, get the fuck out of the studio. What do I have to do? Bring Lysol in with me? And we did have Lysol in the studio.
We did, yeah. Yep. So they put it in there, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's enclosed, and it's just a whole different setup. If I owned a radio station, I would mandate it.
Yeah.
But I don't own a radio station, so I won't.
And Brady, I have no idea what the rules are for the workers, for the concessions and ushers, and I don't know.
Dave, someday you can tell me about the eye patch, unless it's private. Yeah, I got tumors. Okay, I'm not wearing it for my looks. Should be easy to figure out.
Well, you have the eye.
Well, there's an eye under there, but I can't see out of it.
Right. People are concerned about that. That's the thing.
Yeah. It's not much fun, and it hurts sometimes. Okay. But the patch serves its purpose, and I can see out of the other eye fine. And thank goodness, cars now have great safety features in them. Otherwise, I would not be able to drive. If they didn't have the side view mirror warning thing, I would not be able to drive.
That sucks.
Well, but they do, so I can drive, and had no problem driving to San Diego this summer, and enjoyed myself there, and looking forward to getting back as soon as football ends. I'll probably take another drive down to San Diego with a companion, and I'm not sure who she will be yet, but we'll have to wait and see. And go see my amazing Aunt Renee, who is she is amazing. She's the most remarkable person I know. She's 98, hasn't lost any of her mental faculties.
Oh, nice.
When I visited this summer, she's taking online music appreciation courses. She's 98 years old.
That's awesome.
It is. It's amazing.
Someone was asking,
my oldest relative.
Someone was asking, how often am I at the station? Since we got back up and running, well, we never went off the air, so we were doing shows from, believe it or not, my house for a while.
Yeah.
Once we started rolling again in, well, it doesn't matter. So if it's from March last year, 9 months, we're another 11 months into this year, 10 months, 19 months. I think I've done less than 15 shows in the building in 19 months. So
that's not very many. That's only 15 more than I've done, and
yeah,
I haven't been there for a while.
We're on the road all the time, and if we're not, then I find a place to do the show on the road.
It did end my radio career because obviously we had some sponsorship issues when COVID hit. Yeah. But I said to Matt Newmans and myself on the show, and I said I think I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to, because this thing isn't going away. I don't feel like going to the studio every day. It's a pain in the ass, and I don't need the money. So it's like, you know what? Retirement time. And I can do as many shows as I want from home. Desean has me on every once in a while. I do a shitload of stuff with Wager Talk, and it's right here at my desk. Love it.
Good. Mike, good observation, right? These help a little bit, but if we all shared these at the station,
no thanks.
That wouldn't help anyone. They would be freaking germ central. So, all right, Dave, some college football.
All right.
First, let's start in the Big Ten. The West in the Big Ten is pretty damn competitive.
Yeah.
Seems like everyone controls their own destiny. most of the teams have a shot to get out of it. Minnesota is getting, it's actually come down today, 4.5 now against Iowa.
Yeah. Well, they've shown an ability to bounce back under Fleck off really bad games, and they're off a really bad game. And they're not bad defending the run. And if you can defend the run, what's Iowa going to do? I mean, there's 130 teams out there. He might only be a starting quarterback at like 3 of them. He's terrible. It's amazing to me that Iowa cannot recruit a quarterback. So I think Minnesota's got a shot in that game. I would also anticipate it's going to be low scoring.
Total of 37. So
yeah,
that's a strong.
Well, but the thing is, I mean, it was like the Air Force Army game last week. It's like this is going to be a really fast game. The total's in the mid 30s, but nobody, nobody's going to score, and they didn't. It's scary to bet those numbers, and that game got really scary because it went to overtime. But it still stayed under. And that's the only way I could bet Iowa, Minnesota, to be honest with you.
Michigan moving out to 2 now. Was a pick. 2 against Penn State.
I don't know what to do with the game. At least Michigan, their dreams, I guess they're not dead yet. Okay, if Michigan wins out and beats Ohio State, they can still get in the playoffs, so they're still alive. Penn State isn't. No. And Penn State, very misleading score last week. It's 14-14 in the fourth quarter with Maryland. And they get ahead by 10 and then get a pick 6. You get a 31-14 final. It was a completely misleading score. And Clifford's banged up. So I think Michigan's got a pretty good shot in that game. And I think that line is indicating that he might not be good to go for Penn State. There's a couple of games like that this week. I'm not sure Brandon Armstrong's going to play for Virginia.
Right.
He's banged up, and it's a really tough call for Bronco Mendenhall because on the one hand, he is. We talked about this game today on one of the Wager Talk shows. He is, on the one hand, an actual Heisman candidate. So a showcase performance against Notre Dame would really be helpful. But at the same time, he's also an NFL prospect. And based on what we're seeing, I mean, Mike Mayock was on tonight's Pittsburgh game talking about the kid from Pittsburgh being the top prospect, quarterback prospect. If Pickett's the top quarterback prospect, somebody can move past him, and Brandon Armstrong could be the guy. So if you're Bronco, you can't mess with the guy's future. He's got rib issues and other stuff. And I think where the line is that he has not practiced with the first team all week. He's been taking mental reps. I think he's not going to play. So it sounds to me like he's not going to play. I don't have any inside information. It's a guess, but I would not run to the window to take Virginia unless you know he's going to play. So moving back to Penn State, Clifford's also banged up, and I don't know what his status is at this point. I guess he's going to play, but he's not healthy.
I want to bet Maryland plus 13. Am I crazy? Michigan State, you did?
Yeah. It's a bubble burst angle. Doesn't always work, but saw what happened to Iowa when they lost their game and they sucked the next week because the dream got crushed. And Michigan State was never the 4th best team in the country, but there they were, unbeaten, sitting in the playoffs. Win out and you're in. And they got beat. And now they have to bounce back. And it's against Maryland, which isn't going to fire them up. And they play Ohio State next week. Maryland's not that good. And on paper, Michigan State's 2 touchdowns better. But I think the spot favors the dog. And I love playing spots. I mean, I got lucky with the spot tonight. I wanted to play against North Carolina, coming off a great comeback against the Tobacco Road rival. And the whole crowd came onto the field after the game. You thought they won the ACC title or something bigger. And it's like, this team's going to struggle. And they did. I mean, they're down 23-7, and it could have been worse. But Pittsburgh let them hang around. It ended well. But late in the season, the power ratings are all pretty much on target at this point. So you got to look for spots. And I think Maryland, I think fading Michigan State is a spot worth playing this week. I think the same thing with Wake Forest. That's the biggest loss in their history. Because Wake Forest has never been a named program. Top 10 for the first time ever, I believe. And they've got a big lead in the game on top of that and blow it. And that's the end of their season as far as the big stuff goes. They could still get to the Orange Bowl, but that's not the same thing as the playoffs. And now they've got to face an NC State team that might be better than they are anyway. I think the wrong team's favored in that game.
All right. Big 12. TCU, Oklahoma State. Okie State 12, and TCU, along with Texas Tech, fired their coach. Well, Patterson pushed out.
Texas Tech made it higher today.
Texas Tech with a guy who's basically a high school coach. He served 5 years on the Baylor staff, but he made his hay at Cedar Hill High School. That to me seems like a weird hire to blow out Matt Wells.
But the Baylor staff is getting rave reviews for what they've done this year. Yeah. And they might lose the whole staff because Aronde is going to get offers. And I have to think LSU is still they've got to make him an offer, don't they?
James Franklin, I'd kick the tires on Mike Gundy. I think he'd be a good match for that market. He might be, even though he's an Oklahoma State guy, he might be ready to go and try something new. One final job.
So anyway, Jeff's comment: Michigan State can still control their destiny. No, I don't think so. I mean, they're going to have to get a lot of help. They're going to have to get Oregon. They're not passing Oregon unless Oregon loses. They're not passing Georgia or Alabama because they're Georgia or Alabama.
Oh, shit.
And they're going to have to win at Columbus next week. Good luck. And Ohio State's not the same team they were earlier in the season. They can win, but Ohio State's going to be a big favorite in that game. Big favorite.
So Okie State minus 12 against TCU and Oklahoma minus 6 against Baylor.
We'll see if Oklahoma can deliver. I mean, they're in this thing. I don't trust them. I mean, I think they ought to beat Baylor, but I just don't trust them. And Baylor's overachieved all year. Maybe they bounce down a little bit here, but I just don't trust Oklahoma. I can't play it. If I had to bet it, I'd bet Oklahoma.
All right, moving out west for some games. Bubble burst for Arizona. Let down after they finally win a game against a COVID-busted team. Utah's 24.
Yeah, and Utah can name the score. But 24 is an awful lot on the road. The most interesting game to me is Arizona State and Washington. Washington is absolutely team turmoil right now. What a mess. So, realistically, they might not do well here. Well, you never know. Arizona State finally put it together last week, second half against USC, but they've been struggling for a couple of weeks. But they have a little momentum. Interesting note, by the way. I saw this in Mark Lawrence's newsletter. Arizona State 13-0 against the spread versus Washington over the last 20 years.
Wow.
And for Washington, I mean, who knows what's going to happen there. They let one of the assistants go. They shuffled a whole bunch of stuff. Jimmy Lake suspended for this week for whacking the guy in the helmet last week. I think he's on real thin ice. He's made some ridiculous comments this year. The academic rivalry stuff with Oregon was comical.
Yep.
And he needs to win something. If he loses the Apple Cup, I think he might be out of there. I'm not even sure if that saves him. But the flip side of it is they could win this weekend, and who knows? But Washington's as big a flop as there is in the country this year, and the fans have turned on them. That's one of the better fan bases of the country. That place was like 3/4 empty past halftime last week. They just quit against Oregon, and the fans left.
Huh.
So things are not going well for the Huskies.
Yeah, John Wilner, who's real good on the Pac-12, said Justin Wilcox will be up there sooner than later.
I would agree with that. He's a good coach.
Yep, better match, comes from the area.
Yep, and he's actually kind of worked wonders where he is because that program does not get good players.
And I'm sure after going through COVID and all the restrictions locally, he's probably like, let me get the F out of here.
Yeah,
like,
really.
I survived.
Last week might have been the finish too.
Yeah.
I mean, they went down 20 players. It was like it was like 2020 revisited.
What do you think of Mississippi State Auburn 5.5?
I don't know. I don't know. That's one of those games where I just looked at it and said, I don't know, and it moved right past it. Yeah. Mississippi State's playing pretty good ball.
I know.
And Harson's done a pretty good job at Auburn. I mean, they got shut down last week at A&M, but A&M's got a really good defense. The surprise is that Mississippi State's got a pretty good defense. You don't often think of that with Mike Leach teams, but Bulldogs actually can stop. And they've got a very good run defense. So Auburn probably has to throw the ball to win here.
So how about Ole Miss against Texas A&M catching 2.5 at home?
A&M's playing well defensively. I don't trust the quarterback. Don't trust him enough to lay points here. Mississippi's offense is bogged down. I think, and I'm bad on totals, so take this with a grain of salt, but I think that might be an under. The Ole Miss offense has not been functioning all that great lately, and A&M's offense isn't that good to begin with.
It's kind of crazy looking at the board, and you're like, Miami, Florida State, kind of who cares?
Yeah, really.
Would you fire on Florida State at home getting points?
No. Miami's actually showing some improvement. I don't trust either team. It might be a high-scoring game. Might be fun to watch.
You going to play anything tomorrow with Cincy in South Florida, 23?
No, Cincinnati is taking money out of my pocket 2 weeks in a row, and I will not trust them. So they'll win by 50 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because, that's how it goes. But their rush defense has not been good in these past couple of games. And I would think South Florida's looking at the game films and it's going, let's shorten the game. Let's run the football and see if we can hang around and pull off a shocker. I don't think they can. But, Cincinnati's got they haven't exactly been impressive the last 2 weeks against Tulane and Tulsa. And Navy the week before that.
What a weird, uneven season for a lot of the teams in the Mountain West Conference. Tomorrow night, Boise's 13.5 against Wyoming.
They're rolling. But Wyoming, they're off a good win. That got them back on the right side of the page. I think that might be a pretty good football game. I would lean to Wyoming slightly.
Starkel back. I assume he's going to be upright again this week. Now 4.5 against Utah State.
Utah State's overachieved, and I'm not sure I trust San Jose State. I know Spartans are better, but Utah State, he's done a good job with that team, Blake Anderson.
He's done a really good job.
Yep.
Because that was another team when I watched them play UNLV, I was like, they're okay. Luke Bonner's good. Their top receiver's friggin' awesome, but I didn't think they were very stout against the run. That was the game that Charles Williams went for 220 plus, and they survived in that one. Boy, I've heard so many people doubting the move in this one that I'm starting to think maybe it's the right side. San Diego State is now 3 against Reno.
Well, they're going to get after Strong, and whether he's a little banged up or not, I think he is a little banged up. He's not very mobile to begin with.
He drags that leg. It's like friggin' Namath in 1974, the way he drags the leg sometimes.
Yep. And not like the Aztecs. They've got a clue defensively. So I would think they're going to attack him and maybe try and get him out of the game, assuming he's playing. And I would assume he's playing. I have not checked the injury report, to be honest with you, but on that game, I will tomorrow. But he was definitely banged up coming out of the game last week. And this is not a good defense to be banged up against. San Diego State might have a lot of limitations on offense, but they're a nasty crew defensively.
It's insane. Like I said, times watching them, I swear to God, they have 13 guys on the field.
Yep.
And then this is a good comment by Adam Cruz. Matt Ariza is insane. But let me tell you something. I know no one's going to really notice it, but our good friend Dan Dolby and I were sitting on the sideline, watching the game, Reno and UNLV. The kickoff specialist, Dave, for Reno is unbelievable. There are never returns.
Yep.
This guy hits the back wall or kicks it into the stands on every damn kickoff. And then Matt Ariza is just, I don't know, what is his average has to be like 51 yards to punt.
The only thing I'm worried about is
Crazy.
he does have a slow release, which you can get away with in college football, but you can't get away with that in the NFL. But I mean, he's just can really bomb it. But watch him when he punts. It's a slow release.
Okay.
And NFL teams will pick up on that.
Yeah. Well, might be a lot of punts based on the San
yeah.
Diego State offense and the way it's been rolling this year and their lack of quarterback play. Yeah, and now these things.
How do they not recruit a quarterback there? It's San Diego, for crying out loud.
I know. They should be able to get a second-tier California guy or an impact transfer every couple of years who wants to come back home. It's crazy, or a Pac-12 guy who's not playing. Like the fact that Jake Haener lands at Fresno, and I know it's more of an area thing, but like that's the kind of guy. San Diego State's got to get one of those dudes. They should have one of them every 2 years.
Yeah, and San Diego State, I still think San Diego State's the program in this conference that can be a national player because it's San Diego. You got a lot of advantages there, and they've always had a good defense. I mean, that goes back a lot of years now. So they get good defensive recruits every year. But Jesus, get a quarterback. It's painful watching them at times.
How do you manage the beginning of the college basketball season when it coincides with the football weekend? You just back off?
No.
Holy crap. How much research are you doing? Do you have someone who does college basketball for you?
Well, I'm not focusing on every conference.
Okay.
So, like the games I've played so far, but mostly West Coast teams.
I mean, tomorrow.
It's like 58 games tomorrow. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Friday night. There's 58 games.
But my college football was done on Monday.
Okay.
I mean, I liked everything. I bet everything I liked, and that was it. And I'm not going back. And one of the things I've done wrong this year is I've gone back and let's see if I can find some more. And that hasn't worked out. So I just played the games and was done at that point with college football and stole a win tonight, which I'll take.
College basketball is an incredibly long season, and I wouldn't get too worked up over what happens in the beginning of the year because there's a lot of growth and regression as well. But,
oh, yeah.
My God, right out of the gates tomorrow night, just looking at the bottom of the schedule, San Diego State's playing BYU, and you also get Villanova, UCLA.
Yeah.
What? What the hell?
Nova will be live in that game. That should be I do want to watch that game. I'm glad it's late because pretty much everything else will be done and I can watch that. Should be fun.
Yeah, it's a 7:00 start tomorrow night. I was looking for any other big premium spots.
Well, on the Pepperdine thing, they actually do get some players. I mean, the kid Ross, who was there the last few years, he was really good.
Uh-huh.
Really good. But Pepperdine's the West Coast Conference. I mean, it's not, it's Gonzaga is they're it now because St. Mary's isn't producing what they did. So now it's all Gonzaga. And, those teams, it's tough when you're only basketball. Gonzaga gets away with it, but it's tough for basketball-only schools. It's just because football is what really it drives the wagon. Pepperdine's not bad, though.
NFL real quick on some I see when I looked at it, I was like, man, there's some public plays here. Does it seem like the Titans should be bigger than 3 against the Saints?
No, I think the Saints are the right side in that game.
Really?
Yeah.
Why are they power rated so highly?
They were real good. They got a real good look. They got sloppy last week. They were coming off a big win, and their main rival comes in, at least from the other team's standpoint. It's the big rivalry game. And Saints didn't play very well. And Simeon was, I think the Saints defense might control this game.
All right.
So I'm probably going to make a little bit of a bet on them.
I assume it's already built into the line that we know Wilson's coming back, but that Rodgers is playing. It's 3.5.
Yeah. Both teams will be fired up. Green Bay's off a bad game, and Seattle desperately needs a win, and they've got their main guy back. So that should be a fun game. I have no idea. I'm done with those 2 games. With Lions and Saints are probably it for me.
Yeah.
The rest of them, I don't like the schedule this week, and so I'm probably just going to stop there. I don't play a whole lot of NFL either anyway.
General thoughts on Rams San Fran? 4?
49ers might be able to hang in. I don't trust them, though. And the We Love Shanahan train seems to have come to a screeching halt.
I told everyone like 4 weeks ago, I'm getting fed up with this guy, man. It's like 3 out of the 4 years he's under 500. His career is under 500. And I forget who wrote it, talking about there's 2 different Shanahans in this quotient. That the Shanahan who designs all that run game, right, in this offense, that's the high achiever. But the Shanahan who gets a taste of personnel, that's the guy who's screwing things up.
Well, look, somebody's probably going to go. It ain't going to be John Lynch.
No. I don't think Shanahan would. I mean, they'd have to have a disaster this year for him to go.
It's getting there.
But they absolutely, he should be in the crosshairs. And honestly, both of them should be, because I feel like the story did not get enough attention back before the season, but they were the first choice of Tom Brady, and they said no. And looking at it now, you're like, guys, you could have had 4 years, 3 years of Tom Brady versus
3.
This.
He's playing till he's 60.
Wishful thinking, man. On my part. And instead, you're now, this is before you knew you were going to get Trey Lance, but Jimmy G was your guy over Tom Brady? Seriously?
Well, maybe they believed the Belichick stuff, that he preferred to keep Jimmy G over Brady. I never believed that.
Right. Boy, this is a good number, huh? Shanny's win percentage is lower than Anthony Lynn and Mike Singletary.
Well, I will say this, though. At least he can manage a clock better than Anthony Lynn could. Yeah. Anthony Lynn might have been the worst I've ever seen it in the NFL at managing the clock. I mean, it was just like, what are you thinking about?
So my push for stabilizer coach with the Raiders of Anthony Lynn, you're not going to be down with that, huh?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Listen, if they play well the rest of the season, this guy keeps the job. Why not?
Well, it depends. I mean, someone asked earlier.
If he makes the playoffs and they win a game, how are you going to say no?
Okay, well, now you're going to another level. Someone asked earlier, is Mike Mayock going to be back on TV next year?
Got me. I don't know.
Well, what's your vibe, right? So they draft some guys.
Depends on where they end up.
They drafted oddly because they keep drafting guys 30 spots ahead of where they should go. They keep drafting guys out of Clemson and Alabama. Clearly, Arnett had big time character issues. Ruggs is a dunce. He's an immature kid. Like who do you put that on? Because I get the feeling that it was more Gruden than Mayock.
That's the buzz. But in any event, the 2020 Raiders draft has a chance to be the worst in the history of the NFL. Ever. I'm talking ever. They've got one guy left out of that draft. Out of the top, they had, 6 in the top 100? They've got one guy left.
Yep. And 3 of the first 4 turned out to be character issue guys because they didn't even – Lynn Bowden, they wouldn't say it, but you don't trade a guy before he even plays for you.
Right. And is he around anywhere?
He's been on Miami, but he just doesn't play. So
right. Well, so I don't know what's going to happen with the Raiders. I do know this: they kind of need to make the playoffs because right now they're they're still going to get fans to the games but right now they're not exactly the most popular entry in Las Vegas. So they better do some character work going into next year's draft and including whatever they're going to go with free agency. And I got to tell you, and I mean, I don't know. I really don't follow this stuff that closely, but the Desean Jackson signing ruffled some feathers.
Yeah, of course.
He's not,
He's been a knucklehead.
Yep.
I agree. He's one of those guys who, although I talked to an Eagles dude this week, a media person. He said Jackson got a little bit of an unfair shake with the gang stuff back in 2014 where they moved on from him. He said that was much ado about nothing, but Desean Jackson does have a history of kind of whining on some of the teams when he doesn't get the ball, and also the anti-Semitic stuff on social media
was not good,
stupid. So
and
you're 34 years old, bro. Grow up.
And the thing is, and I know people make different arguments about it, but the fact is, we've got another pro team here, and they've been here for 5 years.
Yep.
And to my knowledge, there hasn't been a single issue, not one.
Yeah, what'd you think of all the stuff? He had like pretty big name NFL guys, Breer, Peter King, and they're like, well, is it Vegas?
No, it's
And
not
like
Vegas.
in mass, we're all like, yeah, stop, cut it out.
It's not Las Vegas. Okay. Now I know nationally, some people look at it's Vegas. Well, you don't know the city then. It's these people that think that everybody here is just gambling on the strip 24/7 and going to strip clubs, and that's just not the way it is. Residential areas here are pretty much the same as any place else. The only difference is we're open later. Okay, we're open 24/7, but that's because it's a 3-shift town as well.
Right.
But don't tell me. Look, I haven't spent a lot of time in New Orleans or a lot of time in Miami. New Orleans, I will tell you right now, Las Vegas, to me, Las Vegas has always been less hectic than New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans twice. That place is nuts. Okay. It's fun. I'm not knocking it. It's a blast. But, blaming the city, I mean, the Vikings got in all kinds of problems they had a bunch of problems a few years ago. It's in Minneapolis.
Right.
Okay. So stop that. It's not Las Vegas. And the proof of that is we have a hockey team here. It's in the same city. Nobody seems to be getting in trouble there.
This is a good point.
You just got to draft better guys, okay?
The town is barely 24/7 anymore outside of casinos. That's about it.
Well, that's true.
And the bars, but
you're right on the Walgreens because, interestingly enough, this was not that long ago, and I had to get a prescription. And drive down there. I'll go late when it's quiet. It's closed. What happened?
I know. It's craziness. So, all right, Dave. Well, I hope you win this weekend.
I do too.
Everyone watching, I hope you guys do well. We got some good stuff going on in town, so hopefully everyone gets out to some games. I know the Running Rebels could use the support. They're playing Cal at 5 on Saturday. You got Hawaii UNLV on Saturday, 1:00. Raiders on Sunday. Go ahead, Dave.
I want to mention something because I'm doing something a little different for college basketball this year.
Okay. I'm
at Wager Talk, and that's still the same. But I'm only going to sell my best bets. So those would be the 4-star or the rare 5 stars. Everything else is free. So all the 2s and 3s, I don't do 1s. They're free. So if you follow me on Twitter at Dave Koken, I will tweet out when they're available on days that I have them. And then you can just go to my homepage at Wager Talk, and they'll be there free. So,
nice.
They did pretty well so far. The Wyoming and New Mexico came through nicely. So we'll see if we can add a few more tomorrow.
Good deal. All right, Dave, have a good weekend. Viewers, listeners, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you.